This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices rose on Friday but fell for the third straight week after a sharp fall earlier this week ahead of benchmark interest rate rises and on concern that the U.S. banking crisis will slow the economy and sap fuel demand. Brent crude closed $2.80, or 3.9% higher, at $75.30 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate settled up $2.78, or 4.1%, at $71.34 after 4 days of declines that sent the contract to lows last seen in late 2021. The Brent benchmark finished the week with a decline of about 5.3%, while WTI plunged 7.1%, even after the rebound on Friday. Both benchmarks were down for 3 weeks in a row for the first time since November.
Asian spot liquefied natural gas, LNG, prices hit a 23-month low on Friday on mild weather and weak restocking demand in China, Japan and Korea, while Europe enjoys 60% full inventories ahead of summer. The average LNG price for June delivery into Northeast Asia LNGs was $11 per million British thermal units, MMBTU, the lowest since June 2021. The price is 4.3% down from the previous week, industry sources estimated. Demand is still scarce, however a prompt cargo was booked to a South Chinese utility that might signal prices are appealing enough to play spot, said Toby Copson, global head of trading at Trident LNG.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
U.S. energy firms cut the most oil and natural gas rigs in a week since February, energy services firm Baker Hughes County said in its closely followed report on Friday. The oil and gas rig count, an early indicator of future output, fell by 7 to 748 in the week to May 5th. Despite this week's rig decline, Baker Hughes said the total count was still up 43 rigs, or 6%, over this time last year. Oil rigs fell by 3 to 588 this week, in their biggest weekly decline since March. Gas rigs fell by 4 to 157, their biggest weekly decline since February.
India is considering overturning a ban on foreign investment in its nuclear power industry and allowing greater participation by domestic private firms, two government sources told Reuters, as part of a push for cleaner energy. The measures have been recommended by a government panel, set up by think tank Niti Aayog, which is headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Under India's Atomic Energy Act 1962, the government plays a central role in developing and running nuclear power stations. Domestic private companies are allowed to participate as junior equity partners by supplying components and helping build them. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Global copper smelting activity slid in April to the lowest level in 2 years as Chinese operations shut for maintenance and plants in North America slowed down. Data from satellite surveillance of metal processing plants showed on Friday. In Central Asia, smelters in Turkey and Kazakhstan were inactive at the end of the month, commodities broker Morex and the Savant satellite service said in a statement. Earth Eye, which specializes in observational data, tracks smelters representing 80 to 90% of global production. It sells data to fund managers, traders and miners. It also publishes a free monthly index of global copper smelter activity.
Vietnam's mined output of rare earths soared tenfold last year, U.S. data showed, as global firms have flocked to the Southeast Asian country with the world's second largest estimated deposits to reduce reliance on China for the key industrial metals. Past attempts to build up Vietnam's rare earth industry have stuttered due to falling prices and regulatory hurdles, but growing sales of electric vehicles, EVs, and firms' efforts to diversify their suppliers has revived interest in Vietnam. Australian Strategic Materials Limited, ASM, said on Monday that it would buy 100 tons of rare earth oxides this year from Vietnam Rare Earth County and is looking for a longer-term supply agreement.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Traders, producers and analysts were mostly bullish about the outlook for already high sugar prices, as they gathered at an annual meeting this week in New York, while a few expressed caution after sugar hit a 11-1 half-year high last week. Raw sugar prices at the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, rose 37% since January to a peak of 27.41 cents per pound last week amid a short-term supply tightness and concerns over the arrival of the El Niño climate phenomenon later this year that could disrupt crops.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.